Can you see the terminal window?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, in the last class, we discussed about the file systems. So entire how the Linux file system, different file systems are organized, beginning from the root, etc. Then, so your home directories. Now we look into some other details of how to work with those particular file systems. As we say in the previous class, echo $home, say for example, environment variable home will display its contents. It will display its contents. Then similarly the PWD, present working directory command, also tell where you are as of now in the shell commands. And we are browsing through the command window using change directory, that also we have seen. If you want to enter into any particular folder, say for example documents folder, in my home folder, I can write the folder name documents, then I can get into documents folder. If I want to come out of document folder, once again cd with the double dot, this is to come out. These are the basic commands whatever we learned discussed in the previous class. Similarly, we also discussed about how to create your own folder. So mkdir command, and you can name any given file. Say for example, I can create one folder called CSE. Once if I create that particular folder, I can get into that particular folder with the cd CSE command. Now if you look into present working directory, you are inside CSE folder /home/manmohan/CSE. This is your folder name. So this is about creating one folder. At the same time, if you want to remove this, now the folder CSE is created. If you want to get out of it, or if you want to remove that particular folder, then you have to come out of that particular folder first. Come out of that CSE folder, then you write rm for remove dir, the remove directory, and the particular file name you can write. Now it is the file name, the CSE folder is removed. And also there is one more useful command. If you find out ls, we can find out, say for example, these are the different files. If you want to display any command, we are using cat command, cat and file name x2.dat. Say for example, if you want to find out what is there inside that particular file, you can always click on it. So it is a simple text file containing some data. So this is about how to display the file contents. Then similarly, you can look into various aspects of ls commands, various parameters that you can give, etc. And one more command that is very important in case if you want to copy one file, say for example, you want to copy x1.dat, x1.dat, this is the source file. You want to copy x1.dat, and if you want to create another copy of it, say for example, in the same folder, you can write directly, say you can name it x3.dat. You are copying x1.dat to a file x3.dat. Now if you look into that, say for example, now you can notice that one file is created x3.dat. This is about copying. Now here also, if you look into that in detail, you can find out the one point you need to remember is how to copy a file. If you want to copy a file with some different name, then you can rename it. The destination file is x3.dat. File is created. Now look into the way in which I used ls command. Here I typed ls and after that I typed a star.dat. This means that star is a regular expression. This star is called regular expression. That means that it stands for anything.dat. That means that here I am trying to print all the files that ends with the extension .dat. Okay, further we will discuss about those regular expressions in the next discussions subsequently. Now one more command. So now you know how to remove a file, how to create a file, how to copy a file. Then similarly, in case if you want to copy the file into some different folder, x1.dat, say for example, then if you want to copy it to, say for example, this particular symbol tilde represents the home folder. Within the home folder, if you want to copy it to documents folder, x1.dat will be copied to the document folder. The command is, so look into the way in which I can write a command, path name. I will write a tilde command that stands for home directory, your home directory, and in the home directory, this tilde symbol represents home directory. Then after that a path name. So I mentioned a path name and I can simply write this command as well, or else in case if I want to copy it to some other name, say for example x4.dat, I can name the file also and press enter key. Okay, so somewhere I went wrong here. Sorry, one sec. It is not CD, it is CP. See, now the file name is copied. Now, for example, you can check it. Once again, go to documents folder. You can type once again ls, the file name which starts with the or ends with the .dat. Now you can find out that particular entry x4.dat. The file is copied separately into documents folder. That is about copy. There is one more command called move. When you say move, it is like cut and paste. CP command is copy, one duplicate is made. Say for example, even in the home folder, look into the all files, sample files, you can find out x1.dat, x2.dat, x3.dat, etc. Now if assume that we want to modify the file name, now I will write mv command. I want to move x3.dat to x4.dat. Now notice the difference here. When I say mv command, x3.dat will be renamed as x4.dat. Existence of x3.dat will not be valid after that. Now look into this. Now actually what happened here is that x3.dat is destroyed, x4.dat is created. You just try to print that. See, now you can find that there is no entry called x3.dat. So here you can understand what is the difference between CP command and mv command. In CP command, we are going to create a duplicate file entry, copy of a existing file. With the move command, source file is renamed, or the source file is destroyed, or it is like a cut and paste of a particular file. So any doubt in this CP and mv? Anybody can go for a clarification also. Anything? Any doubts? Now one more point to note that if in case if you want to move all these files ending with the .dat to a particular folder, then you can write mv move command. Then you can write either file name as x1.dat, x2.dat, x4.dat, and you can tell where this file should move. So I want to move all these files to document folder, say for example. Now all the files, it is a cut and paste from home directory to the document folder. Let us check it. Check in the current working directory. There is no more existence of that particular file. Now we'll go to documents folder. Here you try with the printing .dat. You will get all the file entries in the document folder. Okay, this is how, once again, look into the file convention or the command very carefully. MV and a list of file names. I want to paste, cut and paste to, this is the source. You can go on writing as many number of files. Instead of this, you can write star.dat also. If you want to copy everything with an extension of .dat to another folder, you can use this command. This is a source file, and this part in the command is the destination, where to go. Okay, this is about the bulk cut and paste of the files. It is also equal to renaming a file. If one file is existing, how you can rename it. Okay, that's about some of the commands. Now, there is one more interesting command that is called word count or WC. WC stands for word count. And if you type word count x1.dat or some file name or any file name, now look into this particular output. Here you are getting this output called 4756 and x1.dat. Let us check what it means. Now let us look into the file content. Let us look into the file content. There you can find out entire file entries. So this file contains 4 different lines. Okay, 4 different lines, 7 words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, and 56 characters. Okay, 56 characters are there. Just one sec.
The mic is off.
Am I audible? Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Yes.
now, yeah, word count file you understood. Word count 4 is number of lines, 7 was the number of word in that file, 56 is number of characters. You can customize word count with, in case if you are interested in only in number of lines in a given file, you can write WC-L, then you can write file name. It will say 4. Number of lines are 4. Similarly, in case if you are interested in only in a number of words, you can write -W, press enter key, it will say 7. Okay, this is, and all these commands and all these different type of arguments, you can always get it from online man commands. You simply type man and word count. So Linux operating system or the online manual will give you details about these commands. This always you need to learn it from about a command. See, type man WC word count, it will list see number of C bytes, hyphen M number of characters, hyphen L is for number of lines. You can write hyphen L or hyphen lines. Both are supported. Any one you can use it. See hyphen W for words, or else you can write hyphen and words, then file name. Both will work. You can, so you should make this as a habit to find out details about any commands you are passing across. Now, having studied about these particular commands, now look into once again those particular file, the sample file which I created, x1.dat, x2.dat and x4.dat. Same command, if you say ls-l and star.dat, you will get detailed explanation about those files. Now look into this output command. This is very interesting information regarding file. See, there are three files, x1.dat, x2.dat and x4.dat. Now look into this output. Particularly look into this rw hyphen r hyphen hyphen r hyphen hyphen, then 1. Then here there is one more information, user account name. This is the user ID. This is the number of characters or the size of the file, 56. Date of file creation. When this file created, it says that x1.dat is created in this computer on August 13th at 10:30. And the file name. So you need to understand how to get the information from this output. You need to understand every character that is being displayed as a output of a command. So x1.dat or this particular field about file name, this is about file creation time for first file, file creation time for second, file creation time for third file, that is August 29th, that is today. Today I created x4.dat just now while creating these concepts. You can also look into the user IDs. User account name in this today's login is Manmohan. And now just focus on what is this. The first field here is an hyphen for regular file. If it is an ordinary text file, you can get one hyphen mark. See, all three are regular files, so that's why you are getting first character as a hyphen. Then next three permission bits, read, write and hyphen. In all the three files, you have that particular first three bits are read, write and one hyphen. That means that x1.dat, I am having a read permission and write permission. I can read this file by using cat command. I can write to this file using some editors. I can modify the contents. So I have a permission for reading. I have a permission for writing. But the third part, third character is a hyphen. Nothing is specified there. That means there is no execution permission. I don't have a execution permission. I cannot execute this particular file as a set of program statements. Okay, that is not there. For user, for the owner has got read write permission. There is no execute permission. First three bits stands for the permissions available to the owner of the file. Next three bits, here it represents permission given to the group, permission to the group. Now that means I can belong to one group called say 5th CSE. You are also with this separate username and your group may be 5th CSE. So what is the permission for the members of my group? If you look into that next 3 bits, continuous 3 bits, you can find it out R hyphen hyphen. That means that group members, my group members can only read this file. They will not able to write onto the file. They will also will not be able to execute the file, but they can read the file. They can view the file content using cat command. Similarly for others who are the members of this particular computer as a user account holder, but if they are not in groups, not in your group, it may be anybody, third party, those people also will have only read permission. Last 3 bit specifies that. Read hyphen hyphen. Okay, only read permission is available. Okay, this is how to interpret or understand the file permissions. Any doubts in this? If you have any doubts, you can ask. Okay. Okay, these are the permission bits. Now also remember that these permission bits can be changed. If you are the owner of the file, you can decide what others can do on your file contents or on your file. Say for example, let us take the first file x1.dat. Now this is the permission level. Now in case if you want to grant a permission to, because you are the owner of the file, you can use a command called chmod, change mode. Note down the command, take it down, chmod, change mode of the file. Then you can write about how to change the, in case if you want to, now if you look into that, for users or the owners of the file, first 3 bits, you don't have execute permission. So you don't have an execute permission. In case if you want to grant execution permission for yourself, for the owners of the computer, you write for the users, you write now user, then you write plus for granting. You want to grant execute permission. Execute is indicated with the character X. Write U plus X. Change mode of the file for user represented by U, plus stands for granting, X stands for execute permission. Then write file name. File name for, say for example, x1.dat. Now test what happened to the command. Now look into the permission of x1.dat very carefully. Now you can find out that you obtained execute permission for yourself. Read, write, execute now. Similarly, if you want to remove write permission, you can say W for the user. If you want to remove write permission, now you check the permission, what happened. Write permission is removed from x1.dat. You can notice the change here. You have read and execute only, but you cannot modify that particular file. So this is the one way of granting permissions. Okay, users stands for U plus X, then command name. If you want to remove any permission, you have to say minus for the user. The first character here is U for user. Remove the permission of writing, that is indicated by minus W, and then file name. Write permission is removed. Similarly, for others, if you want to give write permission, then you can use ch command once again. Others is indicated by O, not 0, note down that. O, if you want to give permission, write and execute, you can write plus WX. Now view the permissions here. Others in the computer will get read, write, execute permission on x1.dat. That permission is changed. If you want to remove that permission, write and execute permission for others, you have typed O for others, then minus for removing, write and execute permission. You can get back the original permissions. Now look into this, file permissions. This is how to work with the ch command, chmod command. Any doubt in this?
Sir, can you explain the effect each of the permissions have on the document?
So, see, when I say now, first of all, you need to understand this for your question. To understand these things, you need to very clearly understand the permissions, the three types of users. One is the user, yourself. You are called user of, you are the owner of that particular computer. You logged in, you are the owner, you are the user. You are coming under owner's category. Now, say for example, in your computer there are around 50 users. You created 50, or else assume that you are the working on a Linux server. There are 50 user accounts. Okay, listen carefully about this concept. Very good question it was. So in a server, there are 50 users. You are in an organization. Now you are a member. When you logged in, okay, you are logged in as a owner or a user. Now there may be in a company or in your organization, there may be several hierarchies in the in their system. Now assume that all the owners or the shareholders of the organization, we can say that they are in one group. Okay, they are in one group. All people are others, remaining workers are in others category. So as a owner, now you are going to create one document. Once if a document is created which contains, say for example, administrative details of your organization or some salary details of your organization, you may write it on that document. Now you want to see this particular file, or you want to share this file among all other shareholders. You have to make a separate group of them called shareholders or owners, co-owners. So they are becomes your group members. But you may not wish to reveal that document to others other than owners in your organization. So they will be kept out of that particular group. So you are the user. Now there may be one document which is very confidential or very personal. You may not want to share it even with other your co-owners or others. Maybe it may be your family photograph or some document, a very sensitive document of the family, etc. You may not wish to share it with even with your friends or your group members. Then you can restrict read access to others and as well as group members. You can keep all the permission of reading, writing and executing with the user. Sometimes you may want to give certain right to the group members, say read permission, but you don't want others to modify that. Then give read permission only. Don't give write and execute permission. Or if you don't want to give any permission for a file, block everything for others. Read, write, execute permission can be 0. This is the idea behind permission structure in Linux. Now, depending upon the document you create, now it is up to you to whom you want to share this information. Whether you want to keep it yourself, then take all the permissions of read, write, execute with you. Don't even give any permission of reading, writing and executing to group members and others. Or if you want to give some kind of permission to your group members, give them. Then also you can decide whether you have to give write permission only, or you want to give read permission to others, or you want to give write permission also. If you give write permission, those people can change your file content. Depending on that sensitivity and importance of the file, it is up to you to decide about the permission structure. Clear?
Yes, sir. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. So you can create it is up to you. When you create user accounts in your computer, you need to classify them. So if I want to create one college server, I will create a separate user group called faculties. I will create a separate user group called open elective group, LBP group, or I may create a separate group for 7th CSE A section if I am handling class to them. Whatever I want to share with you, Linux programming class, I may not wish to share it with them. It may not be necessary to them also. So I can avoid them. I can put them in another group. I may not take them in Linux programming group. If say for example, all of you are in the Linux programming as a group membership, every user can join to multiple groups. So if you are in the Linux programming group, if I give some permission to your group, you will get that permission. If I give read permission only to my file, you can read it, but you cannot modify it. If I give permission of reading and writing, you can read as well as you can modify the file content. So this is, you need to decide about that, how to change this permission structures. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any doubts about ch command? And along with the chmod, then read, write, execute, RWX. There is one more permission character. See, look into this. Chmod. I can say A. Then if I can write plus X, then I will write one file name x1.dat. x1.dat. Now here A stands for all. When I say all, user, group and others. Generally U, G and O, but here it is user, group, other, everybody. That's why I can write it as A also. For all, give execute permission on x1.dat. If I give this command, now just check it. Now look, user got execute permission, group members got execute permission, and others also got execute permission. Everybody got execute permission on x1.dat. So in this way, it is a very flexible command of all this method of changing permission, whatever we just explained now, is called relative permissions. Okay, note down relative permissions. Okay, take it in your workbook also. This is example for relative permissions. You are working on permission bits of a file, but this method of using A, U, G, O, plus, minus, execute, R for reading, etc. are called relative permissions. There is another method of working with this particular file or with this particular notation that is called absolute permissions. Okay, now let me share a screen with you. I don't know whether it works or not. I'll just try for it to explain. Wait for a bit. Today I'm facing some problem in college network, so I am on my personal Geo connection. So bear with me about that. Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, so whatever we discussed so far is about absolute or so-called relative permissions. Similarly, these permission structures can be absolute also. Absolute permissions. When I say absolute permission, read, write, execute for owners, read, write, execute permission for group, read, write, execute permission for others. These permissions can be represented using binaries also. So when I say if you want to grant read permission, then you can say read, put it 1 here, read. If you don't want to give write permission, put a 0 here. If you want to give a execute permission for user, put a 1 here. Similarly, for group users, if you want to give read permission only, write 1, 0, 0, WX 0. For others also, if you want to give only read permission, write and execute can be 0. Then convert this into decimal numbers. Now this stands for 5. This stands for 4. This also stands for 4. If you want to give permission for a file, you can write chmod 544 x1.dat. This is very much equal to setting it. This method of giving permission is called absolute permission. Okay. So by looking at this command, you should be able to implement. First hexadecimal digit, or sorry, decimal digit stands for users or ones. Second decimal digit stands for group members. Last decimal digit is for others. Users them in, write it in binaries 1 0. So group is 4, write it in binary 1 0, and so. So this is about permission. Instead of writing a U, G, etc., you can write absolute permission. Just practice this in the next class in your computer and verify output. Okay. Any doubt? Absolute permissions. Any doubts?
No, sir.
Yeah, coming back to continuing with the discussions here. Whether the screen is visible to you now? Yes. Can you see the terminal?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now there is one more command, the last command here about changing the file ownership. Now you say, for example, there is look into this particular command output here. This is the x1 dot d8 is owned by me. That's why my user account name is displayed here. So as a owner, I can grant permission. I can grant the ownership to anybody in the particular file name. Okay. Or I can give away this particular file to any user account name by writing chown command. Chown command is used for changing the ownership of the file. Okay, this is about some basic commands, whatever we are going to use it in our day-to-day life while working with the Linux file systems. After that, we need to move into the shell programs. Just one sec. Exit alla LSB underscore release restart ಮಾಡಿ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಹ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Yeah, now we need to focus on the very important aspect of this particular subject, that is called shell programming. Okay, this entire screen or entire command screen, whatever you are going to get, it is called as a terminal window. It will have some limited programming capability also. So from today's class onwards, we need to look into that particular aspect of how we can write go for a shell programming. Now, when I say shell programming here, so we studied many different very commonly used shell commands like clear, pwd, etc., etc. All these commands can be put into inside one text file. Say for example, let me write one simple shell script for you. I can write using any text editor. I can write, say for example, p1.sh. I am going to create one simple shell script, the so-called shell script. I am creating that particular file with the editor called Vim. Now, so I am working with the VI editor. Now you can write a series of valid shell commands here. Let me write a command called date. Then after that I will write one more command who, or else I can write in the first line so then I will close this particular file. So I created one simple file. called p1.sh. Now I will give execute. Now if you look into this file command, it's done. Now purge next. You can purge it. 1 second. ನಿಮ್ದು ಉಳಿದ Now, if you look into the permission structure of that particular file, ls, say for example, -l, then p1.sh. Look into the permission structure here. You don't have any execute permission for this particular file. So now shell command is written. I have written a very simple shell script p1.sh. It contains three commands. Now I will change the permission bit. I want an execute permission for me. So I can write an absolute read write execution for users. Read bit 1, W is 1, execute 1. So it is equal to 7. Then I want to give read write execute to everybody, users, groups and others. Then write the file name p1.sh. Now look into the command permissions or the file permissions. This particular file contains permission, read, write, execute permission for everybody, users, groups and others. Now this is a sample simple shell script. I wrote it. Now of course it will simply say echo namaskar, then it will print date and it will say who. These three shell commands are nested together, written one after another. You can try to execute this program or a shell script by writing .p1.sh for execution. Now look into the output. Initially the first command echo namaskar is worked. Because of that you obtained this output. Immediately next after that date command is worked. This is the output of date command. The last command was who. This is the output. So this is one simple shell script. This is not at all a complex code. Whatever the commands you want to work, whatever the shell commands you want to work at a time in a batch, you wrote everything in a file called p1.sh as a text file and stored it. After that, you obtained execute permission by using this command. Of course, here read, write, execute for everybody, I gave the permission. Read, write, execute permission for user, group and others. Anybody can execute this code. Or if you want to give a permission called 700, that also could be ideal. It is left to you. Doesn't matter, at least you should get executive permission. That's what is important. Now, having said that, after changing the permission, then look into the way in which I executed the script. The file name was p1.sh, which contained three different commands in this case, / and file name. This is the one way of executing this. Or else, you can always execute this command with the shell command, sh also. You can write sh, you can write p1.sh. This also works. sh and file name. Shell will execute this program, shell script. This is our first shell script. So what is that shell script? Cat p1.sh will print that content, file content. Now whenever we say shell script, we can write different commands inside this file depending upon our need. That depends upon what you want to achieve. This, the so-called bash shell, it gives us support for a limit, of course, not not like a high-level language, programming language like C, but it gives limited programming capability. What are those capabilities? How we can write a very good program using these commands, etc., is the topic for the next discussions. So, any doubt on this part? How to write a shell script, how to put it into a file, and how to execute. This is the first step you need to know. After that, you should be in a position to write your own shell scripts or your own shell programs you need to write depending on the requirement. We have loop statements, we have decision making statements here, we have switch case statements, we have arithmetic and mathematical evaluation expressions, etc. we can write. There are very useful tasks you can perform using the so-called shell scripts. Any doubt on this part? Anybody? Any doubts on these topics? Anshuman Nayak, are you there? Anshuman. Krishna Prasad Jayakumar. Krishna Prasad.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Krishna.
I can hear you. Okay. Any doubts?
No doubt, sir.
Okay. How to write a small shells program and how to continue with that, etc. If there is any doubt, you should clarify it. This is what today, whatever I explained is a very fundamental concept. How to write a simple shell script in a text file, save that file in a file name p1.psh. Then also I told you how to execute that particular program after giving or changing the permission, chmod permission. Okay. Any doubts? Anybody can ask questions. This entire class session should be interactive one. Otherwise, I will not come to know what is happening at your end, whether you are sleeping now because it is a Saturday afternoon. Okay. Manas, Nipun Singh, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Nipun Singh. He is not there. Okay. Preston, Nishan Preston.
Yes, sir.
So you are there.
Okay.
Any doubts?
No.
Nitesh Agarwal, Omkar. Okay, now before continuing with the further into about the shell programs, there is one more concept called wildcards in Linux or in the Linux terminals. Like what you might have noticed, the way in which I have written one shell command or one ls command, say for example ls star.dat. Now in this star.dat, now star I call it as a wild card. It is a wild card letter for representing everything. Similarly, there are many different wild card characters are available in Linux. So we need to be aware of what are these wildcards, how to make use of it very efficiently in Linux. So let me go to once again I want to share one screen with you. Now, when I say wildcard characters, if I write a star, like in the case of ls star.dat, this stands for any number of characters. Note down this. Any number of any characters. Any number of characters, including none. Okay, that is what the meaning of when I say write star. There is one more wild character which commonly we write, say question mark. This is also one of the wild card. This stands for a single character. Question mark. Okay. Then if I write a square bracket, if I write some, say I will write I, J, K, and I will end it with the square bracket. For example, you can write any characters. Then we say that this represents a single character. A single character, either I, J, or K. If you write ABC, a single character, either A, comma B or C. Okay. So the square bracket is important here. Within the square bracket, you encompass any number of characters, any one of this, whether it is I can be I or J or K. How to use it, we will study that. Practically, you can practice it in the terminal also. Or you can write it within a square bracket, say for example, X hyphen Z. If you write something like this also represents a single character. Character that is within ASCII range of characters X and Z. In this case, it can be X or it can be Y. Here it can be X, Y, and Z. Any one character. A single character. See, if you write A to Z, it can be A or B or C or any one single character. Or if you write A to F, A, B, C, D, E, F, any one character, stands for any one character. Similarly, in this way, you can write not I, J, K also. If you put it in this way, this also stands for a single character. Single character, but not I, J, and K. It can be A, it can be B, or it can be C. But not I, J, and K. Except that any one character will hold good here. Similarly, you can write within a square bracket with a not, you can write say x, z. Here any character, but not within x, y, z. Except x, y, z, anything is okay. It can be C. It is also represents a single character, but not x, y, z. That is the meaning here. Similarly, you can write for a pattern also. Say pattern, then you have to write a flower bracket here. Flower bracket. You can write a pattern. When I say pattern here, it is a string, small string like Manipal, Udupi, etc. Pattern 2, etc. Any number of patterns. These 3 dots indicates any number of parameters. If you write like this stands for any one of these listed patterns. But important, this feature may not be there in Bash. The Bash is the one where you are working with. There are many other shell programs also, or the shells also like K shell, C shell, etc. So it may be supported. The last one is not supported in Bash. So whatever it may be, these are called shells wildcards. This is called as, remember, it is called as wildcards. In shells. Now let us look into this in detail in practically working on the screen. So now carefully look into, see, now the first command, ls star.dat. I have written ls star.dat. The star indicates any number of files that ends with the .dat. So it can be x1.dat, x2.dat, x4.dat, etc. Now, if you look into how to make use of this, say ls, if you write, say, question mark, this stands for a single character. Then if I write 1 dot, then star. This says that the first question mark indicates any character. I want a list file which starts with any one single character, next one digit is 1. Okay, dot star, extension can be anything. Then the output is, look into this. For this particular pattern, I matched 2 strings. First question mark indicates this can be any character. And after that, there is a 1 in the file name. Dot extension can be anything. Star stands for any characters. That's why p1.sh and x1.dat both are covered with this wildcard characters. The only important point is that I want to list files whose extension can be anything. That's why dot star. But second character is a digit 1. Second character, because question mark stands for 1 character. It can be anything. So it can be P or it can be X. Both are matched. But the second character should be always 1. That is what there is a match for both P1 as well as X1. So this is how we can make use of regular expressions. Similarly, the another command, whatever we used is within the square bracket, ls, if I say within the square bracket, first character can be x or p. When I say square bracket, it means that it represents a single character that can be either x or it can be either x or p. Second character is 1, and after that one dot, extension can be anything. Now also you will get the same output. Look into this. First character can be either x or p, any one character, both are matched here, and the second character is a digit 1 dot star. Extension can be anything. This so we used a regular expression with the square bracket. In this way, any different, all other whatever I listed and I wrote it in, I shared it in a screen, some of the regular expressions, you can make use of those wildcards. You can make use of those wildcards in your daily use or while writing shell programs. Any doubt on this? Any doubt on this? Say, for example, one more example here, echo. It is going to print everything. Echo star. When I say echo star, look into the output. You can see a simple list of all the files in my current directory. In document folder, I have several different files. All the file names are displayed here, echo star. It can be anything. Okay, this is how we need to make use of these wildcards clearly. Say one more example I will try to give. If you want to say ls, file name can be anything, and extensions can be this. Now what could be the output? Anybody? Can you tell me? Can someone answer to this question? What will be the output for this command?
Sir, any file name followed by a 3-character extension.
Any file name can be anything, but the extension
Followed by a
followed by
3-character extension.
3 characters. Yes, good. Now look into this. These are the extensions. If I want a very clear detailed view, then I can write -l, put it in this way. See, all these files, file name can be anything, then extension will have 3 characters, any 3 characters. Okay. See, if I write 2 here, if there is any file with a file name can be anything, but extension can be only 2 characters. See, that also there. We have only one file matching for that, p1.sh. File name can be anything. Extension will have 2 characters. That is the meaning of, that's how we can make use of all these regular expressions. Oh, sorry, the wildcards, not the regular expressions. Okay. Okay, this is about some of the very basic commands, and also we discussed about how to put all these particular content into a shell program. Now also note that you can write inside a shell script any shell commands. Any shell commands you can embed within a shell script as a part of a shell program. That is very important point. Bulk commands, whatever, any commands like WC, piping, redirection, all these operations we can write it with the, or we can use it inside the shell command, or sorry, the shell script also. Okay, any doubts on this? In the next class, we are going to deal with many programming constructs supported by shell program. Within the shell program, how we can write a very nice interactive shell programs also, taking inputs from the usernames, bulk copying of the contents, bulk creation of users, bulk creation of directories, bulk deletion of file contents, selecting a particular PDF files or any particular files from one folder and copying it to another folder. Such system administrative stuffs can be managed by writing a very good shell script. Okay, to be able to write a program, you need to also understand the working of all the Linux commands as well as the system administration part, what do you want to perform inside a computer or inside the Linux computer, etc. So all these parts, we will discuss it in the next class. Now there is anything if you want to ask regarding this particular topic, you can ask me.
Sir, can you change the permissions of a file using the bash program?
Yeah, that's what we did, chmod commands. With the chmod command, you can decide about what kind of permissions you want to give to the file. If I say, see, I did chmod 777 and that shell script p1.sh, you might have noticed it, right?
Sir, yeah, but like using the, what do you call that? You can create a bash program, and in that, if you list, write chmod.
Yeah, within shell script also you can write, within the shell script also you can write chmod command. That is possible. Within the file, you want to write a shell script to do all those things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can write it. You can write anything. Okay. You can write a program, you can write even a shell script to create some files also, remove a file also, copying the file also. See, in a shell command, what and all you can perform one by one, that you can perform it as a batch, a series of commands. By just clicking one shell script, sh shell script, you can perform all those tasks. You can automate everything. That is the advantage of Linux shell script. If you are, say, for example, once if you study system administration in Linux, you can write one single shell script to create multiple users for the class. You can create multiple users and you can assign passwords to them. As well as not only that, you can take a printout of all those customized passwords and you can give it to the corresponding users. Such things also can be performed at one go. So once if you write a shell script, just execute the script, that's all. That is the advantage of shell script in managing the systems. Yeah, any doubts? So once again, I will strongly suggest you people to install Linux in your computers and practice this. Just listening to the lecture may not help you much. Okay, you need to practice, do it yourself. You will do it by trial and error. That is how I learned Linux. I never learned Linux operating system or Linux subject by attending a formal course. Okay. After my engineering, I started my journey in Linux with a self-study. I installed Linux in my computer. I went through internet as well as I purchased few books. From that, I played with the Linux shell commands. In that way, whatever I learned a little bit is by my self-study. That means you can also do that. It is very easy, very interesting. So many things you can perform, so many day-to-day internet operation or the whatever online operations you can easily perform in Linux operating system without paying for a software. Any questions? Okay, then I
Sir,
will. Yeah, tell me.
you mentioned wildcards and a couple of those things. So, is it possible to use regular expressions with
Yeah.
the ls?
So that with the, when we cover shell programming, there we are going to cover, because there are other scripting languages like AWK, etc. There we will make use of those things. By that time, I am going to cover that portion also. Now practice nesting together these wildcards in your shell command. Yeah, after that we can study that. Then comes some escaping commands, quoting commands, etc. That we'll see it in the next class as well. Okay, then I will.
So,
Yeah, tell me.
so could you recommend a good textbook for beginners? Because I checked the one provided in the syllabus, and to buy it on Amazon, it's around 4,000 or something. So
Yeah, no, it is the soft
until we
copy.
come back to Manipur,
Soft copy is available in the internet for free download. Search for it.
yes, so but searching for the terms we need on, you're getting like multiple solutions for searches, and it's very hard to read online. So any
Oh,
physical
okay.
textbook that would.
Then one book I suggest is this Unix by Sumitaba Das. Okay.
Fine, so thank you.
Yeah, Unix by Sumitaba Das is also a good book for a beginner. The shell programming part is very nicely explained. You can look into that also. I think that book cost you around some 300, 400 rupees in Indian market. McGraw Hill Publications. Okay. That was a good book for shell programming. Okay then, see you all in the next class. Okay, I think next week once again we are going to have one MCQ also. So for that you need to practice online, okay, with your laptop, work on those commands, concepts, etc. very clearly. Whatever is your doubt, you can always approach me. Okay, you can post in the Teams also. Okay, bye for all. I will close the class now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.